Hello, this is Ray Williams, and today I want to share with you about American Scandal. Now, the American Scandal that I want to share with you about is not the television series Scandal, but it's true facts. If you want to look this stuff up, you can. But these are true events that have happened, and that have been either enacted by the presidents or other political leaders. Now, the first short story of political scandals that has happened, or not has happened, but I'm going to share with you today, is one with Andrew Jackson's administration. Now, this scandal was the Cherokee Trail of Tears. Now, many individuals know that this happened, don't necessarily agree with it, but this was a scandal. And the reason why it was a scandal was because you had two branches of the government, the Supreme Court and the legislative branch, both in disagreement of Andrew Jackson's ideas and actions that he wanted to commit. And they tried to prevent him from doing this, except they didn't do necessary actions after he had done this. The Congress could have impeached him, which would have been necessary, and if that were done today, they would have impeached him, especially if it was Obama or Ronald Reagan or any other president. They would have impeached him for committing those acts. But because of that time, they didn't find it necessary, and they let him get away with these acts. And years later, we had situations in different scandals. Now, the scandal with Andrew Jackson was a situation where the government did not approve of what he was doing, but allowed him to get away with it. But here's another scandal that's much similar as far as letting government officials getting away with things. See, during the Civil War, there was individuals who were getting very hostile about the Civil War and slavery. This is before the country had split, but they knew we were going towards a war. And there were two individuals who were against. There was one individual who was against slavery, and another one who was for slavery. Now, the individual who was for slavery pushed the individual, or the politician, into his desk who was against slavery, and began to beat him upon his head. Eventually he had blood coming down his face to where it was difficult for him to see. Eventually he had to pull the desk from up out of the ground, and these desks were nailed in the ground. This was appalling that this had happened. No action was really taken against that congressman, but that happened, not just outside of Congress, but on the floors of Congress. That was politics then, though. And that was not necessarily something scandalous, but something that had happened on the floors of Congress that would be unacceptable to allow to happen today, let alone not have any punishment happen against that individual. Now, years go on, and you have James A. Garfield. Now, James A. Garfield was elected president, and he chose a surprising individual to be his vice president, and this was Chester A. Arthur. Now, eventually he would become president after James A. Garfield died of infection from a bullet wound. But James A. Garfield, before he was inaugurated as president or sworn in as president, he was choosing people to be on his cabinet. Now, there was a person that Chester A. Arthur had worked with, and his name was Roscoe Conkling. Now, Roscoe Conkling was believed to have association with some action that was put against his people that he wanted to vet or have approved as members of his cabinet. See, Roscoe Conkling verbally and in many other ways stated that he did not approve of the president's candidates for those cabinet positions, and he wanted certain individuals to be in his cabinet so that he can control the president, because he thought James A. Garfield would be a puppet. But he was sadly mistaken, because James A. Garfield has stood up for his values and ethics. Eventually, he threatened the candidates who were being vetted, and eventually they left and said they didn't want the position. Well, Garfield continued, and he chose other candidates who weren't so easily scared. And these candidates were kidnapped and held against their will until he would consider someone else. Eventually, he got his cabinet approved, and Roscoe Conkling was unable to control the president. But this was a scandal that happened in the U.S. history. This is not something I made up. This is something that you can find facts on. Now, there was a Teapot Dome scandal a few years later, or a few decades later, and the Teapot Dome scandal was much similar to some things that happened during the U.S. Grant administration. U.S. Grant had a lot of scandals that happened, and the people wanted to vote for him for actually a third term. He had ran for 2, but they wanted him to run for a third with the scandals that he had in his administration, because they believed in him and trusted that he had nothing to do with them. But eventually he said no, and decades go on, and we have the Teapot Dome scandal with Warren G. Harding. Now, Warren G. Harding attempted to push himself away from the scandal. Now, some people believe that he had something to do with it, and others don't. But the fact is that he went around campaigning against it, and this had taken a toll on his administration. Eventually, it took a toll on his health and his life, and he had a heart attack and died. Calvin Coolidge would eventually replace him as president. But this is a scandal that happened during his administration, and he tried to recover from. And a lot of presidents try to recover from these scandals, but sometimes they are just unable to do so. Now, years go on, and we have Ronald Reagan administration. Now, what happened during the Ronald Reagan administration was similar to what happened during Obama's administration. Obama has the Fast and Furious situation, which was pretty much the sharing, or not sharing, but selling of arms for hostages. See, the Iranian Contra scandal was a situation where there was a hostage held by an enemy of ours, and we tried to free him. Well, they said, well, we want weapons for that, and we gave it to him. And this was considered unacceptable at that point in history, and people were looking into this to see if the president knew anything about this. Well, he said he had no knowledge of it, and his best words that he could say, and really helped him, was saying, I do not remember. You may see on the television series Scandal, people say that when they have the trials on there, people saying, I don't remember. And the reason why they say that is because of one reason. When this happened with Ronald Reagan, he stated he did not remember, and he ended up having this situation just fade away. People that believed that there was really no substance in which they could hold a case anyways, and the scandal died. Now, with these scandals, I'm trying to share with you that we need to consider who we're going to vote for. We're going to vote for someone scandalous, or we're going to vote for someone who's going to promote American ethics and values. See, that's what James A. Garfield did, and that's who we need as president, because scandals do pop up or happen, and the president needs to push against these scandals. And that's who I hope you vote for in November 8th, tomorrow. This election is huge. We have 2 candidates who have questionable histories, but with that, we need to make the most educated and well thought out decision, and we need to make a very prudent decision. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you will like and comment. Thank you.